Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Now, I had the most amazing hour-long interview with the Honourable Lekota, and he is the Honourable Lekota from COPE, or COPE. And, you know, while the ANC have kind of slipped off to the side, and the EFF and the BLF, which are little pawns of the ANC, have gone even worse off the side, COPE has stuck to the integrity of what was actually decided when the white population in South Africa basically handed over rule to the black population under the ANC. And because of politics and, corruption and all this sort of shit that goes on, the ANC have become totally corrupted. And the man I'm interviewing now is probably the most honest politician in South Africa. Meet President Lekota, who heads up COPE. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Scott, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to pull President up here, and you can just tell me if the light is okay and everything else.
I certainly will. Good day, Honourable Lekota. Very, very nice to meet you.
Good day, I'm very well indeed. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And that's great. I can see you perfectly. And I apologize for my camera. I don't know why it's not working, but I've got lots of videos up there, and you can probably recognize my voice.
Yes, definitely, yes.
And I have to say that I feel like we look under the water, not just at the ripples on the top,
Yeah,
which is distorted by the sunlight. You know, we actually go into what's happening. And as I was just saying to Rob, my subscribers on my YouTube channel, they are hugely behind you. A lot of them are people of different races. And anyway, look, I'm going to get back to my script. And before I talk about the expropriation of land without compensation issue, which I know is important to you, there are a few questions I want to ask you, and just get your point of view on them.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to start off now. I've been invited to interview the leader of COPE, the Honourable Lekota, to clarify their party's position on expropriation of land without compensation. I'm happy to do that, but before we address this subject, I'd like to get COPE's leaders' views on a few key issues currently facing minority groups in South Africa. But before we do that, Honourable Lekota, I believe you speak 6 different South African languages fluently. That's what I've heard. Would you like to greet my diverse group of YouTube channel subscribers and all of them?
Well, good morning. Goeiemorgen. Kgotsong. Sanbonani. Molo. Litswile. Udwedang. So that makes it about, that's about it.
About 6, yeah, that works. Look, that's fabulous. And look, before addressing and clarifying the expropriation of land without compensation issue, I'd love to get your views on a currently relevant subjects.
Yes.
But before we do, what was the trigger for you to leave the ANC and establish the political party called COPE, or Congress of the People? What was the trigger? What made you actually go?
Well, there were a number of issues, but the central issue there that really made it unavoidable was the fact that the leader that was elected after the Polokwane conference took the attitude that the ANC is above the constitution of the republic.
Ah, now that is a
Now,
huge issue.
Yeah, that was really, it was just completely unacceptable. And there could not have been any basis of a togetherness if the constitution of the republic, which embraced all of us as South Africans and so on and so on, if that was not going to be the guiding light for the African National Congress, one could no longer remain part of it.
Well, you couldn't with integrity, because CODESA was the whole basis of what happened in 1994. And, you know, by them going against that with the Constitution was basically just undermining the whole
the voice
agreement.
of the people of South Africa.
Exactly, yeah, the Rainbow Nation. And that's why it's going cactus at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, now I've got to ask you a couple of questions about big issues that are happening right now in South Africa. I'm talking here mainly about the farming situation. Many farming areas of South Africa have been declared disaster areas by the government. That normally results in farmers getting financial support from the government. But if you're white, none has been forthcoming from this ANC government. With KwaZulu-Natal just being declared a disaster region, does the refusal to support drought-afflicted farmers set a bad precedent for the ANC government when it comes to the devastating floods this week in KwaZulu-Natal?
Indeed, it becomes a huge disaster. And I must say that I think all and sundry are holding their breath, uncertain what is to be done, given the attitude of the present government towards agriculture generally, which, by the way, the biggest sector of which is commercial farming. We have already noticed in certain parts of the country that there's beginning to be shortages of certain elementary agricultural products with which our country cannot proceed successfully without ensuring that we sustain that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite, it's very, very sad, isn't it? And
it's very scary.
Let me ask you something. Would COPE respond with financial aid to disaster declared white farmers who are facing a severe drought?
We don't talk about white farmers and black farmers. We talk about the farming community of South Africa.
Yeah.
The critical element of our economy.
Absolutely.
And the Congress of the People would go out of its way to ensure that South Africa looks after its farming community, sustains it, even as we steadily redistribute land and all that goes with it. But there can be no compromise in securing the productive sections of our economy, farming communities.
Yeah, I have to tell you that I've been following this area very closely, and the reason I mentioned white is because the white farmers tend to be the ones who have huge loans with the banks. And the banks right now are trying to foreclose on those white farmers to toss them off their farms. And these we're talking about hugely successful commercial farmers who've been there for 6 or 7 years, and because they're going through a really bad time, the banks seem to be in bed with the ANC and trying to toss them out. It is something that has not been mentioned in the media, and I can certainly put you in touch with people who confirm exactly what I'm saying. It's very sad.
From the point of view of the Congress of the People, we are determined, if we got an opportunity, to look after the totality of South Africa's farming community. And and apply and implement the current national constitution's provisions steadily and systematically to redistribute land or whatever else goes with it in the interest of the entire total South African population.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that in a second because we're talking about the expropriation of land. But let's move on to the next question. On the same point with the drought disaster relief, 220 million rand was set aside in KwaZulu-Natal for drought disaster relief, and it simply disappeared. It just magically disappeared. No one has ever been charged over this theft. Corruption is so prevalent and invasive across South Africa. How will COPE remedy this at all levels, including members of parliament down to the municipal level?
One of the critical issues that we raise in our manifesto is that we must return South Africa, first of all, to constitutional rule and to the rule of law.
That's where the problem is.
That is what we have promised in our manifesto.
Right.
Therefore, we will systematically investigate whatever has been done under the lawless or constitutional lawlessness with which the ANC has been running affairs, disrespecting and undermining the Constitution. Right. We will return to that constitutional route, and following that constitutional route, investigate each and every violation, and where we pick up the theft, the cheating, the fraud, or whatever else, systematically bring to book those who have broken the law, recover what is recoverable, and ensure that South Africans regain that which they have lost, and that we re-employ, reinvest that to take our country forward as had been determined under the Constitution following the CODESA negotiations.
Yeah, I think you share my concerns that South Africa right now is just going down a drain. I read today that Eskom is now blaming non-BEE accredited white companies for blowing up substations and causing the crisis. What is COPE's position on BEE, which is resulting in incompetent people running healthy organizations like Eskom into the ground?
Well, from the point of view of COPE, Black economic empowerment is essentially the reverse policy of apartheid of job reservation, where a certain section of the population is privileged above the others. Once you do that, and we pointed out, once we create that, the foundation, it becomes wrong, and we move in the direction of what has now resulted. Because today we are in a South Africa in which there is a privileged a Black section of the population under that policy, and the rest of the other people are without that right, that equality that is enshrined in the Constitution. It is simply unacceptable. It is one of the most serious violations of the Constitution. And even though the Human Rights Commission has indicated that this Black economic empowerment is unconstitutional, government has persisted with this attitude. We want to return to where we started when we negotiated and agreed at CODESA.
So you want to basically go back to what CODESA was all about and not change all the rules?
Indeed, we want to underline that we are not only committed to our national constitution, we are committed also to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. No human being in this South Africa must have more rights than another. Whatever their color, whatever their origin, whatever may have happened to us in history, we cannot take our country forward if we go back to the barbaric practices of the apartheid regime.
Yeah. Now, there are three key words that keep on being brought up by the likes of Julius Malema and even Ramaphosa: white monopoly capitalism. Now, who have been the big beneficiaries in the black population of so-called white monopoly capitalism?
Well, capitalism is capitalism. This thing of characterizing things with as white and as black will always miss the point, because it is going to select human beings on the basis of their color. On the other hand, any system, if it's the wrong system, it will be wrong to everybody, whatever their color may be. And we, as far as we are concerned, to uplift the people of South Africa, we must simply give every human being the opportunity so that their talents and their potential flourishes.
Yeah.
Human beings are not, their success or talent is not determined by their color. It is determined by that which they are. If they are talented sprinters, they'll be that.
Yeah.
If they are talented business people, they will be talented business people. So as far as we are concerned, color is absolutely irrelevant. God created human beings, and human beings must be given an opportunity, all the opportunity, to live their lives as they are capable of doing. And that will determine their place in society.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, the brain drain is far more damaging to South Africa's future than the wealthy leaving their money with their money. Current ANC policy has seen a flood of skilled people leaving the country. I can assure you that it is BEE and crime that force most people to unwittingly leave South Africa. Most people would hate to leave South Africa, but they'd feel like they've been pushed into a corner. How will COPE stem this tide and try to attract people with skills back to South Africa?
As I have said again, and I'll repeat this, we are determined to take the country back to the constitutional route as negotiated and ultimately signed by President Mandela at Sharpeville. That constitution says of us, the black sections of the population, whatever may have happened to us in history, we want to give our country a fresh start. A fresh start that says, in the words of Mandela, I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination.
Mm-hmm.
Cherished a society of men and women equal and living in peace and enjoying equality of opportunities, and therefore, through their own talents, fulfill themselves.
Yeah.
We did not want to be dominated by whites, but at the same time, we did not want any of us to dominate whites. We wanted to live and open opportunities to all of us so that every one of us could fulfill themselves.
Yeah.
This BEE, which artificially wants to give to our children who are darker in complexion opportunities that many of them will not even deserve, is anathema to us. We want them to fulfill themselves in the opportunities alongside their counterparts, whatever their complexion, whatever their origin, and whatever their ages and so on.
So what you're saying is that COPE's policy is that if they get into government or they have the balance of power, will see BEE thrown out.
We have rejected that right from the beginning. Once you start honest, you can't be a little corrupt, because this racism of BEE is corruption. You cannot be a little corrupt. It's either you are corrupt or not corrupt. And we do not want to be corrupt. We don't want to create a corrupt society.
Yeah.
Apartheid was a corrupt society. We rejected it. And that's why we declared that we are now on the route to build a South Africa that belongs to all of us, united in our diversity. And nothing else will satisfy us.
Do you know there's a program on the internet, and I could send your organization the link. It's called the Yes Organization, and it's aimed at people who are coming out of school. And one of the conditions of actually participating, where you get grants and benefits and all the rest of it, is that you are not white, and it specifies that. And when you actually make the application to join that particular program, it asks, are you white? What do you think about that?
That's another corruption, because it's choosing human beings on the basis of color. Now, God created all of us. When we go to the Olympic Games, we are not invited on the basis of what color we are.
Yeah.
We are invited on the basis of what we can contribute to the enjoyment of the human being. And if you're a good runner, it don't matter to us, human beings around the world, whether you are, what color you are. What matters to us is come and display that which you have been endowed with.
Yeah.
And you get your gold medal and other medals on the basis of what you are capable of achieving.
Yeah.
And we celebrate the excellence of the human body.
Yeah.
Forget about the color.
Now, the South African Tourism Board is holding a tourism indaba in Durban with people from around the world in 10 days' time. I'm not sure how the devastating floods in Durban will impact this, but in your opinion, how safe is it for tourists in South Africa today, and how can the country promote tourism until it cleans up its act, considering the level of crime that is going on?
I'm very uncertain. I think all of us in South Africa are very uncertain. I mean, we have only been reading fresh reports this morning of dams that burst and water washing away houses, human beings, children, young and old. I don't know whether the government will review the position or whether there will be capacity to clear the atmosphere in and around Durban timeously to hold a successful event. I'm unable to express an opinion. I'm not in the province of Natal. I'm up in the upcountry, in the central parts of the country, where we have not experienced similar damages, even though we have had limited damage. So that is very difficult to predict at this time.
Yeah, no, look, it's been shocking. I've got lots of videos that people have sent me where they're, especially houses built on steep slopes, they've just been washed away and people have just disappeared. It's just shocking what's going on. Mudslides and things like that. It's just terrible. Anyway.
Terrible. I wouldn't be surprised if the government took a position that perhaps the event should either be postponed or to be relocated elsewhere. But it's all going to depend on the assessment when everything has died down.
Yeah. Now, the widely discussed issue on social media is the idea of minority groups in the Western Cape breaking away from the rest of South Africa to form a separate country. What are your views on this? Is this something you would support?
We certainly would not support anything like that. We declared already at CODESA, is there in the Constitution. This country is now our common home. South Africa is one sovereign democratic state. That is the future. There was a time when South Africa was different paths, but since the Union Act of 1910, South Africa became one whole. Since then, by 1996, when we wrote the Constitution at CODESA, we even got rid of regional areas which were characterized as homes of particular tribes and so on. We then declared it one sovereign democratic state, period.
Yeah.
And the international community recognized us as one country. We ourselves in South Africa are daily and increasingly becoming one. You look at the institutions of education, you look at schools, you look at communities. We are now building cities and towns that are not characterized by whites only, blacks only, or this tribe or that other tribe.
Yeah.
The future is non-racial. It is for that reason that even when we adopted the national flag, we merged the flags of a divided South Africa to form the current flag, which is representative of those who were on opposite sides when we fought against apartheid. When we sing the national anthem, we sing it merged as anthems that were initially different. We sing it in the language groups of our country, all of them included. There is no going back. The future is one South Africa. The future is one people. Just as the international community has endorsed after the Second World War the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we are the South Africa that wants to be a microcosm of the universe.
You know what? I love your compassion for the belief, the intention. I just fear that there are so many things happening right now in South Africa which are just undermining that. You know, the violence on farms and the corruption that's going on at all levels of government. And I think when you talk about the municipal level and where people are starting to integrate and stuff like that, I think the problem is that because of BEE, what you now have is people who are totally incompetent running municipalities and forcing them into insolvency because they're just so corrupt.
In our society, as in all societies around the world, the majority of human beings are good women and men.
Absolutely, I agree totally.
Today, they may not be able to reach out to each other because of the long, dark night of apartheid that we experienced before.
Yeah.
But those of us who live in this country know in our neighborhoods, in our buses, in our trains, in our schools, that as we interact, they are a more powerful force of pulling us together. As millions of us fill up church halls and other places of prayer, whether on Fridays, on Saturdays, on Sundays, that there is rising a new order of things in this country that cannot be denied by the isolated evil elements that are there. They will always be the minority compared to those positive forces that are at work in this society.
Right. Look, I love the way you think. I've got to tell you. All right, I'm going to share a little thing with you. Okay, I'm known as the old fart on my channel. Okay, I mean it's just a colloquial saying.
Yes.
I think you are actually probably a member of that club because I think you're about my age or a little bit older. And I think your reasoning and the way you think is absolutely enlightening. I am so thrilled that we've had this discussion. Now, before we get to the key subject, which is expropriation of land without compensation, I've had a lot of feedback from my YouTube channel subscribers when I said we were having this interview. And I have to tell you that just about everybody said they are so excited because they have you're a person with integrity. That was the word that's been used. You're a person who's stuck by his beliefs and not been corrupted. And that's a wonderful endorsement to you. Now, having said that, is it correct to say that COPE Manifesto is basically the current constitution as agreed at CODESA?
Our last Congress endorsed that and said that we adopted the constitution of our country as our manifesto. That's what we want for the people of our country. As a matter of fact, I was saying this past weekend, the Bill of Rights as set out in our constitution is the manifesto of the Congress of the People. That those promises made at CODESA to the people of South Africa before the whole international community is what we have bound ourselves to implement step by step. We feel that all the rights declared in there is a manifesto that preceded even the existence of the Congress of the People. And President Mandela got the mandate of all the people of our country and went to Sharpeville to sign it as an endorsement of the termination of the war of apartheid, or the attitudes that were pushed forward by the apartheid regime. So we pride ourselves in a manifesto that has been signed by somebody who's gone to his grave after having paid with 27 years of his life to get that manifesto. We cannot have a manifesto different for the people of South Africa.
Well, you can't change the rules after the game, can you? I
No
mean,
longer.
if you play a game of rugby, let's say the Springboks and the Wallabies are playing a rugby game, okay? And let's say, God forbid, the Wallabies beat the Springboks 15-12. And after the game, you say, no, we're not going to take that outcome. It's going to be actually the other way around. You can't do that, can you?
It can no longer be done, sir. It can no longer be done.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
It will not be done. And the story will never be told without saying the choice that was made ultimately, after some had paid with years in prisons and years in exile, with some having paid with their lives, with their tears, with their blood, that all that having been done, you can never tell the story again without starting from where it started. So it is there, it's enshrined, it's indelible.
Well, I have to tell you, I watched your exchange in Parliament where you said how you had been imprisoned and how someone dobbed you in basically so that you landed up in prison at Robben Island. This is back in the 1970s or 1980s. And, I just thought, this man is just one hell of a politician. He has got so much integrity. And the guys on the other side were jumping up and down like they were on hot rocks because they didn't have anywhere to go.
Let me say one thing with regard to all of what happened to all of us, the people of our country.
Yeah.
It was in the cold prison cells in various parts of our country. It was in the loneliness of exile for many South Africans. But it was there that we found it in ourselves, Black and white South Africans of all walks of life, that we found it in ourselves to say, whatever the price, when the day comes, we are going to build a South Africa that belongs to all of us, united in our diversity.
Yeah.
And today, we don't think about what we suffered then.
Mm.
We celebrate what we are now busy building here.
Yeah.
When you build a house, and sometimes a brick fall on your leg, or it fall on your head, or you fall from the ladder.
Well, I've had it on my toe.
All of those things that happen.
Yeah.
When the house is complete, you call friends, you don't moan about your nails and your legs, you celebrate.
What a lovely analogy. That's beautiful.
The joy of being South African, and of knowing that our children and our great-grandchildren will live in this country.
Yeah.
And there will be no reversing it.
Yeah. Now,
That's is our attitude.
Now, the main reason Rob contacted me and suggested we have this discussion is because on my channel, I suggested that you had changed your view on the expropriation of land without compensation. What are your party's views on this? I know the answer already because I can see what you're saying, but I want to hear it from you.
Our answer to this is that it's impossible for us to change, because at CODESA we undertook that the injustices of our past is our duty to correct. And when we drafted the Constitution, we set out a systematic process by which we would take the years that lie ahead and implement a process to correct them.
Yeah.
So if one looks at Chapter 2, the Bill of Rights, and the things we say about the rights and so on, about how we would reverse some of the evil deeds that had been done, and about how we wanted our country never again to go back to be at war with itself.
Yeah.
We cannot reverse that process. We cannot change from that commitment. That promise was for years to come, for generations to come. We will be working to correct all of the things that we did to each other, wrong that we did to each other, since we met as a people that came from various parts of the world. We will build a South Africa steadily, but we will not allow for this country to collapse into a mutual destruction. We must build and rebuild, and we will correct. So it's impossible for us to change from this. We cannot correct the evils of the past, the harsh treatment that we meted out to each other. We cannot correct it by creating new atrocities. We will build this South Africa with patience. It will not be corrected in 1 year, 2 years, in 1 century. It will take long, but corrected it will be.
Okay, let me ask you a hypothetical question. Take the situation where you've got a Free State farmer who's got a huge farm, let's say 30,000 hectares, and he's got a very, very profitable farm. And the ANC government comes along and says, we're going to expropriate this land and we're going to give it to one of our mates, like Ace. And he takes over the land and bang. I mean, that's I think, the perspective that the farmers in South Africa are believing. And I think that's a huge concern they have, is that, it's a way of land being appropriated to mates within the ANC.
I have already said the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, says all of us are entitled to live in South Africa.
Yeah.
The Constitution says that the expropriation of land with compensation may be carried out for public purpose or in public interest.
Mm-hmm.
Public purpose or public interest. And it does say that public interest has to do with ensuring that we redistribute the land of South Africa such that all citizens, all without exception, can have access to various resources of South Africa.
Right.
As such, it does not allow for, it says it does not allow for arbitrary expropriation. And no law may allow for arbitrary expropriation. Now, we will always, whatever we do, we are obligated under the Constitution never to leave any South African without access to the resources of this country.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that can be done is to ensure that everybody has access. The one thing that cannot and may not be done is to deprive others arbitrarily.
Yeah.
It cannot be done. If you take one right away from anybody, either on the basis of color or whatever else and so on, then the Bill of Rights collapses. It means no South African will have those rights.
So what you're saying in effect is that your party does not endorse expropriation of land without compensation.
Indeed, that is why we say that the Constitution is our blueprint.
Yeah.
It is a promise made to the people of South Africa. Whatever their color, is made to the people of South Africa, all of us, united in our varieties. You cannot choose, I'll give this one and not give that one. I'll give this one and not that one. The moment you veer away a little bit, you have ceased to be an adherent of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because, as I said earlier on, you can't be a little racist. You can't be a little corrupt. Either you are corrupt or not corrupt.
Yeah.
Either you are racist or not racist. There's no two ways about that. Either you are just or unjust. And we want a nation that is just. And
Okay,
that's what we have set out in the Constitution.
I have to ask you this question. I mean, there's absolutely no question in my mind that COPE is not racist, that it'll deal with people equally and with reason.
Yes.
The only area that I have a question for you is, how are you going to stop? Let's say, for example, COPE wins government in next month, okay, and you become the government. Now, how is COPE going to get rid of all the corruption right through the state-owned enterprises, the municipalities, the members of parliament? It's endemic everywhere. How is COPE going to sort that out?
Once we become the majority in government, we have to ensure that within the ranks of those who are in government, there is no corrupt elements. And if we pick up a corrupt element, we'll weed them out. When we go to the bureaucracy, when we go to servants, public servants, we will employ men, women, young and old, who must be committed and who must abide by the law. The rule of law must prevail. If we catch any of them, we'll weed them out systematically.
Will you actually take them to court? And the other question is, will you get rid of BEE?
It's not even part of our policy. BEE is not even part of our policy.
So you'll get rid
Affirmative
of it?
action, definitely, no doubt.
Okay. So if someone's caught with corruption, will you take them before the courts and make an example of them, regardless of what position they have?
Regardless of what position they have, we will take them before the court. They will enjoy just trials, and if they are found guilty, they will be sentenced to go either to jail or so that they can be rehabilitated to become appropriate citizens.
Yeah.
Because in the constitution of our country as it stands today, everyone has a right to life.
Yeah.
But we cannot allow miscreants to roam freely in society and therefore to upset the situation.
Yeah.
We have to take them, we have to get them rehabilitated, but must be kept out of society. And only when they are corrected can they be released to enjoy the freedoms alongside other citizens of the country.
Yeah.
When it comes to education, we've got to be strictly educating the youth of our country, all of them without exception, such that they must understand and know that they can only live in our society. They can live in our society if they obey those rules and education and the orientation we shall have given them.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty perfect to me. Now, you know, you've got political parties like the EFF. We call them everything for free. You know, they're promising everything for free. Now, South Africa financially is not in a strong position, and they're clearly making all these promises which they know they cannot keep. How do you counter those sort of false promises that people like Julius Malema are making?
Well, the first thing, the point to make is that we have to realize that the EFF, especially this attitude they have, that they have no regard and they don't accept certain sections of the population of our country as fellow citizens. That already is criminal in terms of our constitution.
Yeah, it is.
We cannot allow that situation. We need to take them and rehabilitate them.
But I have to ask you, you take the South African Human Rights Commission, they let Malema off the hook over some absolutely terrible hate speech things he made. Is that not indicative of what is wrong in South Africa?
Indeed, yes. That's why, we need the Human Rights Commission. We don't need the elements that allow for a culture of denial of the humaneness and humanity of others. Once you are like that, you should be arrested.
Absolutely.
You should be tried for this.
Yeah.
And you should be taken away from society for rehabilitation.
Yeah.
These are the miscreants, these are the elements that outgrowths of the old apartheid order.
Yeah.
Our task is to realize that we have patients who suffer from the disease of racism as a result of what was done to sections of our population in the past.
Yeah.
It is our task to produce from among and educate from among us psychiatrists, social workers, and so on, who can take these patients into hospitals, into institutions attuned to the task of rehabilitating, re-educating, curing this terrible outgrowths of the apartheid system.
But what do you have to say about, the sort of songs that Malema sings at his, his public meetings where all the supporters are? I mean, they're clearly aimed at denigrating one part of the population in South Africa.
Those are the results of the disease of racism, which therefore require this treatment I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And must be forbidden. And every time, of course, if a patient has got leprosy,
yeah,
that leprosy will show itself by its symptoms. And so you take the patient into an institution and you rework the patient until you eliminate, and therefore you can return that patient to society as now a normal and a cure.
Do you think Malema would go with that?
You don't negotiate conditions for curing a patient. You take a patient, if you need to quarantine the patient, restrict the spread of the disease. And then once that's eliminated, then you normalize. You must protect others who don't have that disease. Protect them from this growing disease.
Don't you think that it's got to almost like fourth stage cancer when you consider that the IEC are not preventing the BLF from participating in the election after they say that we are only interested in black voters? I mean, that is openly racist and it's totally against the Constitution, and the IEC are doing nothing to stop them being part of it. I know Freedom Front Plus has put in an application to try and kick them out, but the fact that they've got this far is very, very disturbing.
No, it is. You have to have lived through the experience we lived. There was a time in this society, when we were called Kefas, Africa, and what these denigrating words and all of that were everywhere. They were everywhere in this society. Today, since the introduction of this constitution, they have been cut down to a minimum. In fact, today, even in the black communities, the majority of the people frown upon a lot of these things that you are referring to as Malema saying and all of that. They're extremely rare now, and they're becoming even rarer by the day.
I have to tell you that 90% of the Black African population are wonderful people. It's just so sad the people that seem to boil to the top have these incredibly racist views which keep on coming out. But look, I don't want to get us off the subject because we can talk about this another time.
But I may just say this, if I may. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I have had occasion to talk about these things in public meetings in this country, and I talk about that regularly.
Yeah.
I liken the elements who do this, I liken them to a fly. If I take a big dish and fill it up with milk, and I get lots of people around and I give every one of them a mug and I say, let's drink this milk. We will all go with our mugs and we will dig and drink the milk.
Yeah.
Let one black fly drop in the milk. Everybody suddenly stops.
Yeah.
And they walk around and then everybody says there's a fly in the milk.
Yeah.
They cease to see the milk. They see the fly.
That is so well put.
In our society, every Monday, millions of South Africans wake up and go to work and come back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday comes, they go and fill up the stadium, cricket, soccer, all the sports. Then comes the Sundays. Millions and millions fill the churches and all the places of worship. Others would already have been doing so from Friday already.
Yeah.
But let one young chappie in a red overall
with a red beret
call a meeting and shout certain things and all of that and so on.
Yeah.
The newspapers fill up with all that and so on. Nobody tells you that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, up to Friday, millions of us have been going to church. It's not news.
Yeah.
It is not news. Nobody tells you that the churches are full of worshippers and so on. It's not news.
Yeah.
It's news. This peculiar, this thing that is not the order of things enjoys the attention.
Yeah.
That's
well, you know, you know what we call the mainstream media on my channel. We call it the fake news.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
That's exactly what we call it. Fake news. Now, look, I know you're a busy man, and we've had a wonderful chat, and I hope we're going to be able to do this again soon because you're a lovely man. I've got a couple of questions I want to give you before we close off. What is the most disturbing political secret you have always wanted to share with the public but never had an opportunity to?
No, I have no political secret. I have this agenda I've just been sharing with you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now, is there anything you would like to tell my channel and the wider community around the world on YouTube about COPE and about your beliefs and so on?
First of all, I'd like to say to fellow South Africans who, in despair, left our country unsure of its future, I want to say to them, you must recover your belief in your country and in your fellow citizens, South African citizens. Please, wherever you are, think carefully whether you shouldn't be coming back to help us implement the constitution of our country. Think carefully that if you can't, can you please pray and persuade the international community to support the efforts of those of us who are trying and who want to build the South Africa that Nelson Mandela signed in our present constitution. Think carefully whether you should not be encouraging your children and your great-grandchildren to take the long journey back to South Africa, to come and be part of the effort to build a South Africa that will be an example to nations of the world, to humankind, how we should be able to pardon each other and live with each other, heal each other's wounds, and decorate the world in a manner that God must have thought of when he created what he has created in this world. Thank you.
Well, you know, Honorable Lekota, I have to tell you that I almost feel like I'm talking to Mandela's son. I mean, you speak so eloquently and you have such integrity. It's been wonderful talking to you. I know you're a busy man. I would love to talk to you again, perhaps after you gain government in a few weeks' time. But I will be posting this video up, and I'll send a link to Rob so he can actually, you know, pass it on to you so you can view it. And I wish you all the best. I think COPE is right on the money. I'm so pleased we cleared up that issue with the expropriation of land without compensation, which you clearly did not support. And look, just have a lovely day, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you, sir. May God bless. Thank you.
God bless. Take care.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Yesterday.